Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. Excited to be here today on this, well, kind of cloudy, a little bit dreary, very cold, and not all that great weather of a Tuesday. But, you know, it's Ohio, so we don't get Phoenix weather or Florida weather. But we do have Ohio weather, and honestly, from about October till about May, it really kind of sucks. But that doesn't mean that we can't do good things, and we are doing good things. And, you know, I've got to tell you guys, I've been thinking a lot about what we're doing here and what's going on. And I've been thinking about it from a very high level. I love the show, and I love what we do with it. But you know, we're really facing we're at a crossroads. I'm at a crossroads. We're all at a crossroads right now. America is in a bad spot, and we're all seeing it. It's looking us right in the eye, right? We've got with the newly released Epstein files. What we're seeing is exactly how sick, how perverted, and how disgusting this is. Now, understand that the DOJ is hiding at least 3 million pages. They've admitted they're hiding at least 3 million pages worth of files. Right. So I don't think they're in compliance with the law in any way, shape, or form. Pam Bondi is still covering up for many, many, many people. And this whole thing. But the Epstein files, even as they are, should represent a shift. We have elitists, billionaires, global leaders who raped, who murdered, who participated in some of the most horrific crimes against children on the planet. And we have people out there who are saying that we shouldn't ask about it. Mark Levin, who is the single biggest disappointment to me on the planet, literally says we shouldn't talk about the Epstein files. Dan Bongino is trying to justify what he did or didn't do at the FBI. Children were raped, okay? If we look at the files, we can see children were raped. I want you to picture a 3-year-old child being raped. That was what was happening. I hope that disturbs you, because if it doesn't, there's something wrong with you. I want you to think about a baby being murdered, being raped, being potentially even sacrificed. I mean, there are stories, there are references in this just that can't be described with any other word than evil, just evil. Yet, instead of public outcry, Todd Blanche of the DOJ says, we're not prosecuting anybody. Are you kidding me? Well, they were never going to prosecute anybody. That's why they didn't want to release them. That's why Pam Bondi has been covering this up, because they didn't want to prosecute the elitists, because they don't go after the elites. They only go after low levels. If a guy like me commits a crime, I go to jail. If a guy like Bill Clinton commits a crime, he may get a little bit of I don't know, a few weeks in a prison that's a lot like a resort. And you slap on the hand, they'll make a big deal. Oh my God, Clinton's going to jail. But there's no real punishment. Not like what happens to regular people. We have a two-tiered system of justice. Right now, people who committed crimes that, frankly, probably should include or consider the death penalty aren't even being considered for prosecution. If half the stuff that we're seeing in the Epstein files is accurate, and a lot of it is clearly accurate, then this isn't just a little thing. This is a monumental thing. But yet we're okay. In MAGA, I'm talking to us because I'm MAGA, right? A lot of us are okay. Listen, it doesn't matter. Donald Trump is doing this. Donald Trump is bullshit. There are babies who were raped. I don't care whether it's Donald Trump or anybody else. At the end of the day, there were babies that were raped. There are children that were murdered. There are stories about women being used as breeding stock. Have you seen the stuff about the New Mexico ranches? The reason that I've been very outspoken about this is because we cannot make America great again if we're going to be a bunch of heathens. We've got to come back to some semblance of recognizing right and wrong and saying that when you do something evil or wrong, it doesn't matter if you're rich, you still go to jail. It doesn't matter if you're politically connected, you still go to jail. Real jail. Just like some poor pedophile, the rich pedophiles belong in a real prison where they face all the horrors that real prisoners face, right? Not some sort of a weekend retreat prison, but a real life state or federal pen. That's where these people belong. Some of them actually probably should. And I'm not even a fan of the death penalty typically, but if you screw with a kid, I'm certainly not going to oppose it. This is horrific, but our country can't move forward without some sense of morality. Now, I'm not going to tell you that I'm, Jesus-like. I'm a disaster. I mean, I'm a lawyer. I barely have a soul. But I'm going to tell you that I sure as heck try to be better than that. And I sure as heck try to do right. And I make mistakes and I fall short all the time. But you know what I don't do? I don't try and justify those mistakes. I don't try and justify or look the other way or pretend they don't happen, right? They are what they are. As a nation, we're facing a reckoning, right? We're on the threshold of a new world. And if we're okay with letting child rapists get away with it, then we've got real problems. Now, we need to control our government in the midterms. But let me tell you what, if the Republican Party won't back prosecuting child rapists, then they're no better than the Democrats. And I don't care what you say. Yes, the Democrats are communist, Marxist nuts. But if the Republicans are going to shield child rapists, I mean, you tell me which is worse. I don't know. They're all worse. And that's the real problem. So we are at a threshold. We're at a crossroads in this country. And we're going to have to decide what we want to do. Do we as a nation, do we want to try and grow? Do we want to try and survive? Do we want to try and thrive as a moral nation, one nation under God? Or do we want to throw it away? Do we want to just look the other way because no one wants to talk about Jay-Z or Beyonce? They're too famous. No one wants to talk about, some of these political figures or some of these kingly type people or billionaires. I mean, Bill Gates, for God's sakes, what has Bill Gates done that doesn't indicate that he is one of the worst, war criminals in modern history? Between poisoning people with vaccines, testing on people, everything the guy does is sick. Why is Bill Gates free? Why in God's name was he at the White House instead of the big house? Our nation can't survive without some sort of a moral compass. We're going to have to figure this out or we're going to collapse. It's just that simple. And if you don't have the courage, I was pissed off last night. I see Dan Bongino, the Podfather. Anybody that's got to refer to themselves like that way is a douchebag. It's like this that other little weenie, Warlord Dilly. Warlord, ooh, we're all scared. It's because you have an IQ of 4, and the best you can do is try and talk tough, because you certainly can't win a debate in the realm of public ideas. But this is what we get. We're going to call ourselves big names. We're going to talk tough. But here's the thing. Bongino, he talked tough, the Podfather, and tell us all that, he's big and bad. But you know what? Dan had the opportunity to arrest and put some of these people in jail that raped and killed children. And instead, he told us there was nothing to see in the Epstein files. They couldn't put a case together. There just wasn't enough. It was too messy. It was too this, it was too that. Well, if that's the case, where are the other 3 million pages, Dan? Well, when are they going to come out? Because if there's no cases to be had and if there's nothing to be seen, then none of this should be before a grand jury or still being investigated, right? If there's nothing to investigate, then release it all. Let's see it all. I bet we don't. I wonder why. And I will almost guarantee you the stuff that we don't see, this is stuff that they could charge people with, and the most egregious and horrific stuff in there. But they won't allow that to come out, because people like Bongino, they can talk a good game, they can run their mouths, but when the time come to perform, he fell a little limp. And that's what happened there. Anyways, I'm gonna be on a tirade all day. I'm wound up today, and luckily, we got my new friend Matthew coming on, Matthew McWhorter, and he is my hope for the future, right? Because he is a reform lawyer who found his soul. Because when you're a lawyer, there's a question about whether you still have a soul. Well, this guy found it. Great story, great book, and we're going to talk with him a little bit. And I think it's really important, because I want to kind of talk about some light in light of all the darkness that we're seeing. So we'll have Matthew on 1 second. Before we do, a grifter's got to grift. And listen, obviously, the way I'm talking, I'm not getting funded. I'm not going to get funded without your help. If we want to make America great again, we have to start focusing on truth, even when it's politically inconvenient, and that's what we're going to do. Nobody's going to pay me. Republicans won't pay me. Democrats won't pay me. Susie Wiles and Pam Bondi will not buy me off. They just won't do it. I keep telling you that they need fired, and for some reason, they won't write checks to me. I don't get it. No one is funding me telling the truth, so we need your help. GiveSendGo.com/FriendsLaw. GiveSendGo.com/FriendsLaw. Listen, we've been fighting for truth for quite a while, and there's just no support, right? There's no support. The only thing, they'll go after sponsors, they go after all this. There is no support for people telling the truth. You got to help me out if you want me to keep doing this. I mean, I'm going to keep doing it no matter what. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm going to keep doing this if I got to do it from a cave. But I'd rather not do it from a cave. A little bit of support can really help us get the word out a lot farther. We can really reach more people. Your support makes that possible. We can't do it without you. So please, GiveSendGo.com/FriendsLaw. Also, please support us at TomRenz.com, www.TomRenz.com. Of course, my friends, here it is, men's hormone support from Global Healing. One of my all-time favorites. Listen, keep yourself healthy, keep yourself awake, if you're a man of a certain age, which is basically anyone over 35 or anybody who eats modern food, your testosterone levels are going to be low. Men's hormone support helps to naturally elevate those. It helps you to feel better, really makes a big difference. I like about 6 droppers a day to start out with, drop down to 4, 3, 2, whatever. But I love this stuff. It's a great product. And today I want to talk about my new sponsor, Paleo Valley. I am excited about Paleo Valley. I found out about Paleo Valley from my friend Dr. Drew. And by the way, if you haven't seen it, you should see some of my interviews with Dr. Drew. We have a lot of fun. But Paleo Valley, great partner. You got to click on our link. So just click here, right? If you click on the picture, that's our link. You get 15% off the whole store if you use my link. Right. So you got to use the link at tomrenz.com or in the comments or, wherever we've got it posted. But you get a 15% discount if you use my link. And these guys are awesome. Let me show you the store. Right. You got a bunch of different proteins based on, grass-fed bone broth, high quality stuff. I love beef sticks. I'm a beef stick junkie. So they got that for us. We've got superfood bars that are like super, they're great. You're going to have to look at them, see what all's in them. Just giving you an overview. But from top to bottom, these guys have everything. Coffee, apple cider vinegar, turmeric, a bunch of, some different supplements. Everything they got, all natural, wonderful products. Beef tallow, by the way. Wonderful. Get rid of your oil, your hydrogenated poisoned oils. You use beef tallow. Great stuff. All their stuff is just top line quality. I'm really proud to be working with Paleo Valley. You got tomrenz.com. You got to click on our link. You get 15% off the whole store if you use my link. So if you're going to buy it, use my link. It's a great product line, great store. Paleo Valley. All right, I want to talk to the guy who provides an actual demonstration that my soul might still possibly be saved. My new friend Matthew, who has done a great job. He's a reformed attorney who is not only reformed but actually. I said he's found God and found some direction, and so without further ado, Ben, if we can bring on Matthew. Matthew, I am glad to have you here. How are you doing today, sir?
Thank you. God bless. Happy to be here as well.
So, Matthew, your middle name is James, right? So, Matthew James?
Matthew Mark.
Oh, Matthew Mark. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Matthew Mark. So you're two out of the four big books from the New Testament. I'm doubting Thomas, which is fitting for a soulless lawyer. But you were a soulless lawyer who came back and found some Jesus and found some good things. Tell us your story.
Yeah, I really owe everything to my mom naming me after the Bible for some reason, even though she didn't really teach me it when we were growing up. So was not raised religious, but I was named after the book. And years, I'm a big shot lawyer. Life's going great. Didn't care. Didn't stop for 1 minute to wonder about what happens when you die or why we're here or anything like that. But all of a sudden, I have massive medical problems. And I asked myself, at this point, this wasn't like an emotional or theological epiphany. This was just, I was named after those books. I always said I was going to read them. I should read them before I die, and I might be dying soon. So
there you go.
I just sat down to read them. And what happened for me as part of my journey, the first piece was the strangeness of this. I just go on Amazon to buy a Bible because I didn't have a person or a church saying, hey, read about Jesus through this book. So I go on to Amazon and I discover that there's just a million Bibles. And, the Protestants, Orthodox, and Catholics have three different canons of scripture. So you don't even know what books you're supposed to be reading, let alone which translation, let alone, each one of these denominations has different commentaries. Baptists, Lutherans, Catholics, they all have dozens of commentaries explaining the Bible for you. And I had no idea what to buy. So I just bought them all. And I started reading, with Matthew chapter 1, since that's what I was named after. And I just read across all of these commentaries, over 100 commentaries. I just read chapter 1 over the course of a week, reading what everybody thought it said and interpreted it and what they had to say about it. And then I moved on to chapter 2, then chapter 3. Next thing you know, I'm, finished with Matthew, into Mark, moving through the New Testament. And as I was reading it, it's a beautiful story. It says so many things I didn't realize Christianity was all about. I was just learning so much. And I started wondering, well, is this true? I mean, it all sounds good, but I don't want to come join somebody's cult, right?
So, no, of course not.
Yeah. So then I'm buying all the books on whether or not Christianity is true or not, including the Case for Christ and all the supporting, scholarly works, et cetera. Trying to sort my way through what is essentially two questions at the same time. which one of these Bibles am I supposed to be reading? And is all this true?
Yeah.
And it was looking at that as a lawyer, wanting to see the evidence that just led me down a road of doing a bunch of investigation. And that's really where my book comes through. It's called Canon Crossfire. Does the Protestant Bible blow up the case for Christianity? And the point of that is that these two questions, when you ask them at the same time, end up involving the same evidence. And it's just a discussion of what that evidence is, walking through it as a lawyer and showing people what I found. What I think I discovered was that I just came to this as such a strange journey. I was a lawyer. I had these skills, and no one was introducing me to Christianity. I was discovering it through Amazon, reading these books. So I wanted to know, the Catholic Bible has extra books that the Protestant Bible does not have in it. I wanted to know three things. I want to know, what do the Jews say about these books? I hear what the Catholics say, that the Jews accepted them. I hear the Protestants saying the Jews didn't accept them. What do the Jews say? Yeah. I wanted to know, where does the Bible possibly refer to these books? And I found hundreds of places that reading these Protestant Bible commentaries where they tell me they're being referred. So I just assemble those so that somebody else doesn't have to do the research. You can just read them in my book and I'll point you to them all. And the third thing was, I want to know what everybody in the earliest church ever said about these books. Because what I would find was that Protestants and Catholics, when they're arguing over this, they would each give you a handful of quotes that support their side. And, as you know, a judge is going to say, guys, roll up your sleeves, go find them all. I want to read them all. It's the early church. There isn't all that much. Go get it to me. Let me read through that stuff. So that's where my book comes, is just throwing that out there for people to look at and see after I did all this research. Because I couldn't find a book that showed it to me. And
I got to tell you, I'm actually personally, I talk to a lot of authors and I try and read a lot of it, but this one is actually very personally interesting to me. Yeah. I think that because, I'm an evidence guy, right?
Exactly.
And I'm very much after my namesake, very much doubting Thomas. I totally believe in Jesus, totally love Jesus, but I think if he showed up, I'd have to put my finger in the holes in his hands and to feel it, right? Yeah. To believe properly, because I'm just very skeptical and jaded. And when I look at the good book, I'm of the personal belief that the key ideals survive, because I think Christ and God would not allow those ideals to go away. And I think they're conveyed when you read it. But the way that religion has been weaponized and used over the years is very real. And so understanding and looking at the different churches and the way that they interpret the different canons. I'm Catholic, by the way, but my church is, a master of weaponizing religion. We did the Crusades, right? So it's really interesting to me to look at what everybody's saying and to kind of evaluate it myself. And this is kind of the most profound question in life. What is it?
Absolutely.
It's about saving our souls. So tell me. I want to hear, and you can tie it into the book for sure, but I really want to hear a little bit about your kind of spiritual awakening, right? Because I don't think people understand, when you're an attorney, it depends on what type of law you practice. But most attorneys, it's 1,000 miles an hour. You got a huge caseload, especially if you're in the corporate practice of law. You don't really have time to think about anything other than the facts at hand. And it really tends, I think a lot of good people who I know that are in that space, they don't have very much depth spiritually, because it's just not something they think about. If it's not something that they can see or touch, they just don't really care about it. I think the profession does that. How do you go from being that guy to being a guy who's stepping back and seeing the light?
Yeah, for me, it was a lot of work, because, as you say, I had the same sort of approach. This is all about the evidence to me. I wasn't really in a spiritual crisis personally, and it wasn't sort of an emotional thing, and I wasn't being led in by a person. I was just asking, is this true? And the actual evidence for Christianity is quite good.
It is.
But you got to, immerse yourself in it, be willing to look at it with an open mind, et cetera. The second part, I think I would say too, is that as a lawyer, you recognize, you say it as weaponization. I think of it sometimes when I'm reading this stuff from all these different denominations is, as a lawyer, I can really respect your argument. That is a great argument. I'm not stupid enough to believe it. But that's an awesome argument, is how
Great
I see
job.
the, yeah, that's how you see the world, right? You know, if the
Yeah.
gloves don't fit, you must acquit.
Yeah.
Awesome argument, particularly since I think the guy was guilty and you got him off. Well done.
Yeah.
You know, that's how you see the world.
It
And what
is.
I found is so many people settle for just an argument. They settle for just an explanation. And that includes a lot of skeptics who, you know, they'll say, well, I don't believe in Christianity. I think that was all this conspiracy. It was this, like, I'm the one who has evidence. You're the one with nothing but a theory, but you accept that theory as if it's evidence. You settled for this, you know, idea in somebody's head that you read or that you came up with without doing the actual evidentiary basis to see whether that's true versus this other story, et cetera. Like, you can't settle. You have to be willing to go, you know, find the evidence, which is what I try to do in the book, and try to show people. And like I said, all I was trying to do with the book is get the evidence out there for people. No one should have to do this work again. I did it to find these three things I was looking for. But now that it's out there, I hope that even if you're not a lawyer, even if you're not that motivated to go do the research, that you want to read the research, right? That you want to see the evidence that I've now assembled for you to look at, and try to think about these things more in depth than just settling for arguments and settling for claims, because that's poison, man.
I'm very eager. I got to get a copy of the book. I need to see it. You know, I when I saw what it was, I was eager to talk with you because it just really is a phenomenal. And I love when I see the religious books written by lawyers, right? Because we're very analytical. Most of us are jaded, and you know, it's either evidence or it's not. But
well, and I talk about a lot of the books that I read as amateur lawyering, because it's a scholar trying to make a case. And it's like, wait a minute, dude, if you were making a case in real life, you would hire a lawyer and he would do it better for you. So there's a lot of that when you read through this stuff too. It's like, you need a lawyer to present the case. We're the experts at the case. You know?
Well, there's an immense amount, and you know, it's an interesting. I see that in the media all the time. When I see this. They used to fuss with the doctors during COVID because they wanted to, you know, go out in the media and talk about things. I'm like, dude, the way you're explaining this, no one understands and no one will care.
Exactly.
You know, it's just. But that's our job, right? Is to figure out how to present complex arguments and facts and other things in a way that are digestible for a normal person who might be in a jury box.
And that's a huge part of my book. Was there's just a massive amount of information that I was going through, and I used every job skill I ever had to put it in a way that a reader could quickly get up to speed and do it. So there's a lot of graphs, there's a lot of statistics, a lot of charts, you know, comparisons on one side of the page versus the other side of the page, just doing everything I can to make it as easy, because that was our job, right? You know, it was our job to sort through the room full of data and assemble it in a, you know, relatively short 50-page document or whatever for the court or for your client or whoever. They don't have to do that work. We did it for them.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm Catholic, but if you're Christian, good. I don't care which one. No, I don't care. You know, whichever one. Yeah, I hope everybody finds the truth with Christ. And I think if you get to know him, he'll lead you to the truth. But I'm curious. Yeah, and not trying to pick on one of the denominations over the other, but as you kind of went through and looked at some of these canonical laws of some of these various denominations, what really sticks out is stuff that's out there that just didn't pass the smell test. Anything in particular?
Yeah, so I ended up Catholic as well. I take the same approach. My book is not really a pro-Catholic book. It's really a focus on this evidence about books that Catholics accept, but you could be the Orthodox accept these books, and many Protestants already accept them, and you could be a kind of Protestant who accepts these if you wanted, etc. But the stuff that I found is that people settled. You know, I was saying about arguments. There's some stuff that I don't even think is an argument. I think it's like telling a kid that the baby came from the stork kind of stuff. Like, that is way too simplistic. And the one I mentioned, I do three things. What do the Jews say about these books? The number of times that someone's like, well, the Jews never accepted these extra books. The Jews say otherwise. Did you even ask the Jews? Like, you know, just go do that basic step. You would find that that's not true. And yet you'll find that written all over the place. in very scholarly books. Like, guys, that's not remotely the case. What it's clear that some Jews at least accepted these books. It's a question over, who, when, where, et cetera, and which Jews became Christian, as to why you might or might not accept them. But that simplistic answer of, oh, they never accepted them, like, my goodness, man, that's just childish. But it's out there. People give it to you as a childish explanation. You're supposed to grow up and graduate, right? And to learn more as you go. And it's shocking to see that some people never did.
Well, so I mean, listen, I'm going to piss everybody off here because right now any talk of Jewish or Muslim or all religion just makes somebody mad all the time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But here's the thing. So one of the things I really like about the Catholic Church is the history. It goes back 2,000 years. So over 2,000 years. When I read it as an attorney, when I look at the writings of the Catholic scholars going back 1,000 years ago, right? You have 2,000 years of idea and refinement. Okay, not everything is true, and there's a lot of bull crap, and there was a lot of manipulation in the Catholic Church, and it was corrupt as hell in many, many cases. Look at our last couple popes. But the stuff that survived the test of time, some of the old writers, Thomas Aquinas, some of these other guys, their analysis, their insight is absolutely brilliant and very, very, very difficult to argue against in any sort of legitimate way. And one of the things with the Jewish, listen, Christ was a Jew. Yes, he was hung on the cross by some Jewish people, so not everybody came his way, and some of them did some horrible things, but the Jewish people were God's chosen people. I mean, for a long, long time, and they still are, to my mind. I don't really know, but I'll let God decide how he wants to deal with the Jewish people. That's between him and them. And he says very specifically, "Don't judge a man. You let me do that. You just judge actions." So I'm not getting into that whole thing. But what I will say is, from an analytical perspective, Judaism as a religion has been around way longer than even Christianity. So when we look at the refinement and the scholarly analysis, well, it's had thousands of years of people second guessing it. So the people whose arguments who have survived thousands of years of people second guessing it and still survive. I mean, their arguments it doesn't get better than that, right? So same thing with the early Catholic writers. So I mean, what you're saying really checks out to me, just from a logical standpoint. You look at the credibility of the evidence. Well, if it's been challenged for 3,000 years or 1,000 years, and it's still standing, and no one's been able to poke any real holes in it, well, that's the stuff I want to read, right?
Exactly. And again, the way that I came to this, I did all this reading from the early church because I want to know what the earliest Christians said about these books. The other thing is that they joined Christianity knowing that the end was persecution. This was a very persecuted church.
Yeah. And
of the 10 fathers, that, as they call them, the 10 earliest writers that your names that you hear all the time, I'm reading these guys, I'm reading about them, and I start Googling, well, who are these people? Like, I hear a name, Clement of Alexandria, Origen. And I like, who is Origen? I Google that, I look it up. I suddenly realized that 7 out of those 10 people in the earliest church were tortured and killed for their beliefs. Only 3 of the 10 escaped that. So I'm reading as they are being martyred, as they're preaching while being martyred to a congregation that itself is facing persecution and will die and be tortured and killed. And people are entering this church. Why do they do this? Because it's true. They did this because they believed it's true. They talk about why it's true. They tell you why you should believe it, etc. I found it very uplifting, but it is a shockingly different way to come to Christianity than the modern, person being told, come to my church. It has beautiful singing and in great schools or whatever, know. But it's to me, it was very fulfilling, and a huge part of the proof that this is true is to read about that and see what was going on and see that these people believed it to be true to that extent. And to read why they believe that and how they believe that was just, it was a big part of my own journey.
Well, I mean, I think that what you said is really one of the most profound pieces of evidence out there is the persecution that people faced, but still chose to come to the church. You know, one of my favorites and one of my favorite guys to kind of say, hey, maybe I got a shot still is Paul.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Paul was literally murdering Christians, found some Christ, said, "Hey, I'm really sorry," and Christ made him a very very important figure to this day. Paul, I mean, a profound figure in the Bible, if maybe one of the most profound outside of Christ, obviously, and a few others. But um, you talk about a guy who embodies what you're saying. He went from being one of the guys that was hunting and killing these guys
Yeah.
to being a guy he knew what he was getting into. Yet he still turned coat, joined the Christians, and then became a guy who was hunted and killed for his faith. I mean, that's about as monumental a shift as you can have. I mean, there has to be something behind it.
And you see the people he was persecuting welcomed him. Right.
Yeah.
As part of that was part of this early church stuff too, was that there are several waves of persecution, and there was a need at some point to come back together between the groups that had endured the torture and those that had broke under the torture and left Christianity and then wanted forgiveness and came back. So you had like people scarred from the torture that they had, endured in a church next to the people who had run away and not been tortured. They have to come together, love one another, forgive one another, and be one church again, etc. Anyway, again, I found this just very uplifting when I think of sort of the current disputes that we're having, right? Like all the politics, and people can't agree on anything. They can't even break bread together because they can't agree on the politics or whatever. Like, guys, we got to come back together and, forgive one another and try to move forward.
Well, but we see this even amongst current Christians, right? So Christ comes down and he's eating dinner with tax collectors and prostitutes because it's the sick that need the doctor. I mean, I was at a recent event, and God bless the people who were there. They're good people, but it was a Christian event. And they first of all they scolded me because I swear like a sailor, which I didn't. I tried to be good, but every now and then it slips. And then they're basically very much ostracizing anybody that didn't live to their standard. Well, Christ tried to elevate people to live to his standard. He didn't try and ostracize them for failing to. The people that ostracized for failing to live to the standard were the scribes and the Pharisees, which is quite the opposite of what Christ did when he embraced and tried to elevate the people who weren't quite getting there. And I mean, if we in the church can't recognize that divine forgiveness as foundational to what Christ stood for and who he was, how can we possibly hope to kind of mimic, propagate what he was teaching?
Well, I mean, Paul is an example of someone constantly saying that Christ and God chose him in order to show people what God could do from something that was worthless or broken or flawed or a persecutor in his case, etc. That is a way that God actually wants to operate, as opposed to, sort of only operate with the good people who feel that they meet his standards. And usually God is out there telling you they don't. Sometimes you read things, you can do the research and confirm them. Sometimes you read them and you can only hope it's true or whatever. But I've heard it said that 90% of the New Testament, when people count it out, is actually preaching against those who think they meet the standard and not preaching against those who fail to meet the standard. That it's actually people who think that they are doing the right thing and are good enough that are in more trouble than they realize.
Yeah, well, it's hypocrisy because there's no one even close to good enough. And
Exactly.
Anybody that tells you that they are is kind of like a guy who has to tell you how smart he is. No one has to tell you how smart they are if they actually are. It's only the dummies.
Exactly.
So Matthew, last question. I gotta move. So after all of this study, all this work, and coming from a fellow lawyer, I have a 1 in 10 shot of making it to heaven still? Is there a shot there?
I feel like we're both in the same category, which is that if we're aiming to be the luckiest men to have ever lived and be the last person admitted, like you just barely met the standard, sir. Welcome to heaven. That's what we're looking for, right?
I got to tell you, I'm prepping. I figure because, if I'm standing outside the gate and say Peter pulls out his list, that list is going to scroll down on the ground and roll out about a half mile. And I'm just trying to figure out my counters, like can I call witnesses? I want to call witnesses. Where am I going to
and I've had people I know say, like, how did you become Christian? You're such a bad person. They're like, you don't even know half of what I did.
Yeah,
like,
thanks,
come on.
Oh, hey, whatever you think, it's much worse, guys. So, oh no! Listen, I try. I do. I really do. Before God, I say I try. I just don't always get there. But listen, Canon Crossfire, guys. Canon Crossfire. It's so important. I thought this was one of the best possible interviews I could have today because we are at such a crossroads. We're at such a crossroads. And, no matter how bad you are, no matter how screwed up you are, Christ is the way back, right? Christ is the way back. And even for guys like us, as a nation, we need to make that decision that we're going to keep trying to get better. That's where we are. Matthew, where can people find your book?
Yeah, canoncrossfire.com, Canon of Scripture, so Canon, just the one N in the middle, canoncrossfire.com. I have a free preview. There's audiobooks, large print. The website will send you to the cheapest place to get any version you want, from the ebook to the print copies, etc. So there, or of course, Amazon.
Awesome. Well, listen, thank you for your work on this, Matthew. Thank you for taking the time, and I mean, praise God that you were able to kind of find your way to this path. I think you're ahead of me. I think I'm gonna be last in line now. So yeah. I need to go write a book or so. I need to do something.
Yeah.
So
God bless. Right. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, you, Matthew. All right, let's move on. Right, so we talked about the Epstein files. Then we found out that we have a little bit of hope for my soul, maybe at least 1 in 10. And now I want to kind of go back. Right, so our nation is we're at a crossroads. That's the title of the show. Part of the title for today's show. I mean, it's really a big deal, folks. We are at a crossroads. We have to make some decisions. We got the Epstein files, right? And we've got stuff. Remember Alex Jones? We infiltrated Bohemian Grove. We saw these guys all worshiping the devil at the Bohemian Grove, all this sort of stuff. We see the stuff going on with illegal immigration. We see the corruption in Congress, right? They're trying to figure out what they're going to do with the SAVE Act, trying to figure that out. We got all these different things, and we'll go through a lot of these things. But it's the corruption. It's the corrupt nature of what's happening everywhere that's the real problem. Now, yesterday, or was it today? I don't know. It's running together. The House voted to pass, I think it's a $1.2 trillion spending bill to avoid shutdown, of course. And this isn't mega. This is not what I voted for. I did not vote for this. I'm not okay with it. It's appalling. And Trump, I don't know. I guess he's going to sign it, but it's a garbage bill. It's all this bill does is continue everything that Trump said he was going to fight against. The DOGE cuts aren't there. Funding for leftist stuff is there. So it's all garbage. Let me give you a little rundown, right? Some things that you should know that are in this spending bill. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to pick on a few different countries because I don't want to spend billions of dollars funding foreign countries. I just don't want to do it. We don't have any money here. We're breaking down. Let me keep my tax money. I don't want to give it to some other country. First of all, $3.3 billion in foreign military financing and aid to Israel. $3.3 billion. Now, really? $3.3 billion? So we got that, right? We've got $1.5 billion in aid to Egypt. So we're giving $3.3 billion to Israel, and then right across the street from Israel, you got $1.5 billion and $2.1 billion to Jordan. Folks, so you've got Jordan and Egypt on the two sides of Israel. So we're funding two sides against the middle here. I mean, what the hell are we doing? What is this? I mean, I get, those are like buffers around Israel, I guess. So we're basically, that whole thing is about some, trying to create some Middle East stability. And we're spending well over $6 billion, approaching $7 billion in foreign aid right there. $7 billion. You remember the National Endowment for Democracy? Well, and Tunisia, but it was kind of running. National Endowment for Democracy, that corrupt crew that's out there funding a lot of these groups that are, causing riots and other trouble. We're funding them fully, 315 million, fully funded, right? No cuts there. Wouldn't do that. I mean, why cut aid to to fraudulent NGOs that are undermining America, right? Can't do that. Refugee resettlement, $5.164 billion. This is cash benefits, healthcare, daycare, job programs for refugees. These are illegals. We're funding the illegals, $5.1 billion. How is this MAGA? How about you take the $5.1 billion and use it to fund flights to send these people home? How about that? I mean, $5.1 billion. I don't even know what to say about this, folks. $5.1 billion for refugee resettlement funds to fund illegal immigrants. We're funding what Trump promised to get rid of. How is this MAGA? I want you to tell me how funding against Trump's core campaign promise, securing the border, getting rid of the illegals. How is that MAGA? Can anybody tell me? You can't, because it's not. This is the opposite of MAGA. This is a Democrat bill. This is a Democrat funding bill. It's horrible. Okay, biomed research, which includes, by the way, mRNA and other RNA technology and therapy drugs. We got all sorts of resources for that. We are continuing to fund these mRNA poisons. We are funding supply chain, medical supply chains. Now, this I don't have as big of a problem with, except for the resilient medical supply chains is really just code for funding big pharma, right? Funds and enhancements to medical supply chains, which are going to basically just strengthen pharma networks and mandated vaccines and other such things. I mean, that's what this is, right? That's all it is. We are funding pork projects, all sorts of pork projects. I mean, I'm not going to get into all the specifics there, but tons of pork projects. We have a 2-week continuing resolution for the Department of Homeland Security. That includes all sorts of different things there: FEMA, Coast Guard, cyber security. It doesn't matter. It's everything. And it really doesn't do enough for border. It doesn't really do anything. It's really just a garbage bill, garbage in there. We are funding more for in education, health systems, right? So we have a whole bunch of money. That way the federal government can continue to control our school systems and fund these DEI programs, all these corrupt things. Did you see the student walkout the other day? Yeah. So we got well, luckily, they are transportation infrastructure and modernization. Remember the Biden his infrastructure bill? Have you seen anything come out of that at all? Me neither. That's just a slush fund for pork. It's not actually a real thing. Let's see. Well, we're going to fund small business and diplomacy, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how that's even as a category. CISA. Who doesn't want to fund CISA? CISA. That's the group that was behind all the federal work to censor Americans during COVID. And it's still working, by the way. They're still censoring Americans. But CISA, we're going to fund this cybersecurity surveillance network. It's basically a censorship crew. That's what we're going to do. We're going to keep funding that. Donald Trump is going to sign a bill written by Republicans and passed by a majority of Republicans that's going to continue to fund censorship. Thank you. We're funding the vehicle kill switch technology mandates. How about that? Yeah, that's good. We all want to have the government have cameras and everything else in our vehicles so that they can control our driving. That sounds like a great idea. Who doesn't want that? Let's see. We're going to keep funding domestic propaganda, right? And all sorts of other things, warrantless queries, propaganda dissemination, all these other things. Privacy. We're funding all that stuff. CBDCs are continuing. That's just unabated. That's going to keep going. We're going to continue funding that stuff. We're going to do more funding for Obamacare, more migrant funding. And of course, we're going to keep the Green New Deal going and other things like that, probably some student loan stuff. Basically, the Republicans just passed a Democrat funding bill, and I want to know what difference it makes who I vote for in elections, right? What difference does it make? Does it really matter? I mean, why does it matter if I vote Republican in this midterm? This is a Democrat bill. This is a Democrat bill. It doesn't matter who you vote for, folks. Unless we get active in the primaries and replace these rhinos, it doesn't matter. If we don't win the primaries, the general election is irrelevant. I think Daniel Horowitz told me that a long time ago, and he was right. He was very, very right. Horowitz is a smart dude. He really is. He's been working on state level initiatives for a long time because he saw this coming. All right. Beyond that, a couple other things. Tulsi Gabbard, right? She points out that Executive Order 13848 is there, and it's been extended and is continuing. It's been continuing since 2018. This is really important, right? This is important. This imposes sanctions and all sorts of other things and requires intelligence agencies to monitor federal interference with elections. Now, I'm not saying that this is tied to or related to the Venezuela invasion, but, well, it was. It's almost certain that Venezuela was involved with interfering with our elections, as well as a few other countries. And this executive order means it. Now, the interesting thing about this is that this order was first signed under Trump in 2018 and has continued till now. And that's a very big deal because it really does have an impact, and it requires, that the intel agencies, dig into this, keep records, do certain things. It's a big deal. I don't know. It's an interesting thing, and I think it's definitely worth talking about. Let's see here. Let's look at, I got a couple more. There's so many more things. I can't actually fit everything in the show I wanted to get to. So I'm just trying to hit a few other key things. John Toon, our illustrious Senate leader. He is going he's talking about what they're going to do with this standing filibuster thing on the SAVE Act. Basically, the Senate is trying to make a real show against passing the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act is going to promote track and trace. Now, the SAVE Act is a necessary thing. I support the SAVE Act. We've got to pass the SAVE Act. But it's a terrible law. The way it's written, it's terrible. This is written to be horrific. It requires on state level people to enforce, which good luck on that. It doesn't have teeth, and it's very limited in what it does. The SAVE Act is a very poorly written law that could be much, much, much better. It was written that way intentionally, and it wouldn't pass if it was real because both the Democrats and the Republicans benefit tremendously from voter fraud. So neither of them want to actually let anything that's going to stop voter fraud in because then they can't control their own elections. So nothing's going to pass that's going to actually fix voter fraud, but this will help a little bit. And I do like the SAVE Act overall. It just in its current form, it needs amended to protect privacy rights and to do some other things. It's just a poorly done law, but it's a necessary law. So we're going to stick with that. We don't have a ton of time. But I want to go over just some little drops here and there from Epstein files, right? Let me read this to you. This is from a Harvard professor to Ghislaine Maxwell. Dear Ghislaine, this is from the Epstein files. Many thanks again for your amazing hospitality. I'm so very sorry I caused you so much worry and that I spoiled this day. I'm so happy that I did not kill anybody. What? What? My perspective of life has changed somehow. Lots of love, Martin. So wait a second here. Martin Nowak, who is, I guess, a Harvard professor, just sends an email to Ghislaine Maxwell that says, I'm so sorry I caused you much worry and that I spoiled the day. I'm so happy that I did not kill anybody and my perspective on life has changed. What the hell were they doing together I've done a lot of crazy crap in my life, right? I've done some trips that would probably rival the Hangover movies. At no point in my life have I ever done or experienced anything that would necessitate me writing I'm sorry for causing you so much worry and spoil the day. I'm happy I didn't kill anybody. My perspective on life has changed. How does that become an appropriate thing? What the hell did this guy do or not do? What was going on at whatever party or wherever what is this about? Right? I mean, just craziness, right? Now, purported from the Epstein files, and this is just a quote from a tweet, says, how deep were Jay-Z and Beyonce? Jay-Z and Beyonce's music catalog is pulled from Spotify just 2 days after his name was exposed in Epstein files. This comes after Beyonce lost over 10 million followers and Jay-Z deleting his Instagram account. This is interesting. Everybody knows that Jay-Z and Beyonce are just rotten to the core. But is that kind of coming out? Are we going to find out what they were doing, how they were involved in this? I don't know. I know that what I do know is that whatever they got going on couldn't happen to finer people, right? Couldn't happen to finer people. Epstein was using seeking arrangement website to find people to participate. This goes on and on and on, folks. I go on forever. But at the end of the day, the point that I made early on still stands true, right? We have to decide where we want to be as a country. And we are at a crossroads, and the moral fabric of our country. And I'm not a guy who tries to tell people how to live. You do you, I'll do me. It is what it is. I don't really, I want people to find Christ, to be good people, but it's not my job to really police everybody's faith and life and what they're doing. Folks, we're at a point now, where things are so bad, we're going to have to decide, are we good guys or are we bad guys? Because we're crossing that, we're very, very close to that threshold of just becoming bad guys as a society. Please support us. GiveSendGo.com/Renslaw. GiveSendGo.com/Renslaw. Can't keep doing this. Obviously, nobody's going to pay me to rip bad guys. TomRens.com. Don't forget men's hormone support from Global Healing. And don't forget Paleo Valley. We love these guys. Use our link at TomRens.com or in the comments. TomRens.com, Paleo Valley. Wonderful, wonderful, awesome products. We love these guys. Very glad to have them as an affiliate. And thank you guys for listening. We will be back very soon.
Thank you for watching The Tom Renz Show. Join us live Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, putting an axe in the skull of tyranny.
Crumbling walls, their flags burn black, their thrones decay. We take it back, we make
Hey guys, my people tell me I need to do commercials from the gym. They say I need to talk about health, nutrition, fitness, that sort of thing when I'm here. 48, almost 49, trying to be in shape, trying to do my thing. Let me tell you about two of the things I'm most excited about right now. Men's hormone support from Global Healing is one of the best natural hormone support products on the market. It is the best natural hormone support product on the market. I love this stuff. It keeps men's health, men's hormones. It keeps you healthy, keeps them good, keeps them strong. Gets rid of brain fog, keeps you feeling good. Great product. Men's hormone support from Global Healing. We sell it, we promote it, we love it. Men's hormone support from Global Healing. Also, we've got a new line of oral peptides we're using. Let me tell you, peptides are just proteins. And some people say, well, you can't get through your digestive system. Well, that's not true. Proteins do break down your digestive system, but not entirely. They do get into your body, right? We have a new wonderful line of oral peptides. I'm loving it. It's helping me feel better, less stronger, more energy, better sleep. There's a whole line of them that we're selling. Check the link below. Check the link here. We've got the right links for all this stuff. But they're oral peptides, no injections, no GLP, and they're also all natural, healthy, wonderful things, wonderful products. I'm using them. I'm feeling real good about it, feeling strong, feeling great. Make sure you're checking out our links for our new oral peptides and for Global Healing, men's hormone support, and all the Global Healing products. Thanks. We'll be back soon.